Hotep World. This your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka The Chosen Few, aka The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. It's a question that I get asked often. I get asked this question a lot, and that question is, how do you write a book? A lot of people see that I have my debut novel, Suicide Note, out. I have my sophomore novel, Thicker Than Water. It's going through the final editing process right now. It should be out around the summertime. And people generally know me as an author now. Not just claiming to be an author, not just saying that I want to be an author, but I'm actually an author with the book out, and I have my second book coming out, and people understand that there's going to be more books to come. So I'm established. I'm not as established as an author as I would like to be, but I'm pretty established in that field right now. People trust me, right? And so a lot of people have been coming out lately and they've been asking me, how do you write a book? There's a lot of people out there, a lot of you out there, you have ideas of books that you would like to write, but you either don't know how to get started, you don't know how to complete it, you don't know how to build the story, how to develop the characters. You're confused about what type of setting that you should put it in. Some of you just know that you want to write, but you don't have any kind of idea about what type of book you want to write. Do you want to write a horror story? Do you want to write a mystery novel? Do you want to write something that's humorous? Do you want to write romance? Do you want to write urban fiction? Do you want to write a book that's non-fiction, right? And so what I've noticed from the overwhelming amount of people as of late who have been asking me about how to write a book, what I'm learning is, and what I'm seeing and realizing is that a lot of you have a desire to become an author, even if you want to just write one book, but you don't know how to get started. You don't know how to complete it, right? So what I want to do is I want to help you guys. This is something that I know. So I've been talking to a few people on the phone. I've been helping them get started. I've been helping them formulate their ideas, and I've been giving them pointers and tips along the way. So I felt like it'll be a good idea if I put a lot of this information out for the general public. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a series of videos about how to write a book. And in this video, we are going to be talking about character development. Okay, when you're writing your book, we're going to talk about character development. Now, the first thing that I want you guys to understand about character development, I want to talk about what it actually is. When we talk about character development when writing a book, what we're basically talking about is giving the reader insight into why that character is who they are in the book. If you have a character and they are an overly aggressive character in the book, they are a violent person, the majority of the time in life, people have reasons why they are violent. They have reasons why they are aggressive. They have reasons why they have a short fuse. They have a reason why they have a quick temper. And a lot of the times, well, pretty much all of the time, it is because of things that they went through in their life. Now, when you're writing a book, you have a particular setting and you have a limited amount of time. So you cannot give the full life story of every one of your characters. So what you want to do is highlight certain things in that character's life that made them the person that they are today. So what you want to do is, and one of the tricks that I like to use that works for me when I write my books is whenever I make a new character, right? 98% of the time, I base that character off someone I know in real life. And it may not be a particular person that I know in real life. It may be particular people that I know in real life. Again, we're using the example of a violent character, an aggressive character, an angry character, a character with a quick temper, a short fuse. I'm pretty sure you know a lot of individuals like that. And in your life, you have encountered multiple individuals like that. You yourself may be like that. And so with some of these individuals, you may know enough about their personal life and about their past to where you can kind of conceptualize what happened in their past to make them that type of an individual. It may have been how their parents raised them, how their father or their mother raised them. It may be they got like that because of the environment that they were in. They may have had loving parents, but they may have been in an environment where everyone around them was aggressive, angry, and violent. And in order to survive, they had to adopt that personality for themselves. So it could be a number of things. So you have a number of things to draw from, and you can even mix and match some of these key things. So what you want to do is, let's say you know an individual, right? And you know that deep down, that person is a genuinely kind-hearted individual. But you also know that that individual grew up in an environment such as a street environment, in a area with a gang, a lot of gang violence, right? A lot of criminal activity, right? And you know that that person had to adopt a quick-tempered attitude in order to survive. So what you want to do when you're developing your character, when you're thinking about character development, what you want to do is at key points when you talk about that character, right? It doesn't all have to come at once. You can reveal things about them in stages. What you want to do is maybe have a flashback, right? You may want to have a flashback and describe something that happened in their life where it led them to become a violent, quick-tempered, aggressive person. Or you may want to allude to something that happened in their past. Give you an example. Let's say that your character is Matthew Daniels. Your character is the real bookworm, and I'm the aggressive individual. And so you're starting off a scene in the book, and when you talk about me and you say that and Matthew got angry, right? Matthew got angry. Now, before you continue with the story and tell the individuals, tell your readers what I did after I get angry, you can say something like, Matthew got angry. And then you will go on to say, now Matthew wasn't always like this. He started out as a kind-hearted individual, but because of the environment that he grew up in, etc., 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 etc. And you explain the things that I just told you. That's called character development. And so when you go into that, what you're doing is you're making that character more real to your reader. And 9 times out of 10, whoever is reading the book, they will know an individual like that if they're not like that themselves. And so when you put that real scenario into your character, it develops the character in such a way that your reader is drawn more into their life and they can relate to them a lot more. If your character is a female, right? If your character is a female and your character is the type of character to where she is very loving, very kind. You know, she gives people, she's forgiving. She gives people chance after chance after chance after chance. Now, maybe in your overall plot of the book, that gets her into trouble. What you want to do is, instead of simply telling the story, you want to sit back and you want to think about, why does she have those particular character traits? And so again, you want to think about people that you actually know. Think about somebody in your mind that has a big heart, that's kind, that's loving, that's forgiving. And you want to ask yourself, what made them like that? Why are they like that? Maybe they grew up with their grandparents, right? Maybe they grew up with their grandmother and their grandmother was like that, and she instilled that into them. And so what she does is she tries to live according to the standards that her grandmother taught her, to the moral code that her grandmother instilled inside of her. Right? She wants to live up to that because she wants to make her grandmother proud. Maybe her grandmother is no longer alive, but she honors her memory by living according to the moral code that her grandmother gave her. So once you get that concept in your mind to go along with your character, what you want to do is weave that information into your story to further develop the character and make them more real in the book and make them more real to the reader. So you may be in a situation to where the character she is so forgiving that it gets her in trouble. And so when you're explaining how her forgiving nature has got her into trouble in the storyline, you can say something to the effect of, I don't know, I'm gonna make up a name, Maria, I don't know. And Maria kicked herself because once again her forgiving nature has caused her to be taken advantage of. Her forgiving nature has caused her to be taken advantage of. She often was conflicted with herself about how she viewed the world and about how she approached situations. She was conflicted because her grandmother had always told her to be one way, but in life she realized that people often took advantage of her because she was so forgiving. But she could remember the words of her grandmother, and her grandmother used to tell her, and you go and you fill in the blanks, and it's like you give them a snapshot of that individual's past. So what you want to do when you're thinking about character development, you always want to have deep character development with all of your main characters. You have to give an individual the background information about why your characters are the type of people that they are. Why do they have the personalities that they are? Your readers want to know this. And when your readers are informed about how their personalities came about, then they will be drawn further into the book. Okay, and your book will naturally become better. Now, it's always a good idea to only go in deep with the main characters, the ones that actually matter. Okay, because you're going to have characters that are just there because it's life. In life, you encounter a lot of individuals. So in a book, you're going to have a lot of individuals, but every single person that comes into the story doesn't really need a backdrop. They don't really need a background. Your character can do something as simple as going to a bookstore. And while in this bookstore, they are going to meet someone who is significant to the story. So the individual going into the bookstore and the individual that they meet while they are in the bookstore, those individuals need some deep character development. You will need to explain why they have the personalities that they have. But if you have them checking out and you have an individual at the checkout and you write about them checking them out when they buy the book, and just because you mention that character, you don't necessarily have to go into their background. You can just describe them, say that they checked them out at the front counter and, leave it alone. Or if you may mention that they were walking down the aisle and they saw a young lady looking at the horror section of the bookstore. They saw a young man looking at the mystery section of the bookstore. They saw an older gentleman looking at books pertaining to World War II, you know, something like that. And you may just mention people that are around the main characters as they go about their day-to-day lives, but you don't need to actually go into the character development of those individuals. Now I'm going to tell you something. Whenever you introduce a new character, okay, whenever you introduce a new character for the first time, it's always good to begin building the character development right there. You're naturally going to think about, when you're describing a new character, you're always going to think about describing how they look. That just comes with the territory. You're going to say whether they were tall, whether they were short, whether they were black, whether they were white, whether they were Hispanic, right? Whether they wore glasses, whether they didn't, right? What kind of clothes that they wore, right? But what you also want to include is their personality, and you want to give the reader some kind of picture about why they have the type of personality that they have. And as the book goes further, whenever they have interactions with other characters and they do things that are significant to their personality that you have already created, you want to then give an individual some more information. The flashback is always good. The flashback is always good as a tool, as a mechanism to help you with character development. Never discount it, right? You don't want to overwhelm your reader with flashbacks, but you do want to implement flashbacks to certain things that happened in the life of the characters to give them some type of real life experiences that made them the people that they are. Okay, and another thing that you always want to do, of course, you're going to just make up characters out of your mind. You're going to pull them out of thin air, but it's always a good thing to base your characters off of real people. Now, I'm not saying use the real people as characters in your book, but I'm saying you can base it off of real people. Whether it's their personality, you can have a character that has the personality of somebody you know, but they may look and think nothing like the character in the book, but their personality is the same. So you use that individual that you know, you use their personality, and that will keep you on track and keep you from contradicting yourself later on in the story, because whenever you're talking about that person's personality, you can think about this person that you know in real life. It's hard to remember lies. It's easy to remember the truth. That's a good tool to use when you're describing an individual. Whenever you have a new character and you think in your head how you generally want them to look, you think about somebody that you know that basically looks like that, and you generally describe that person. Right? Now, that person that you're describing, they may not have the same personality as the character in the book, but whenever you're talking about that character later on in the book, it's easier to remember because you have them associated with somebody that's real. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because let's say in the beginning of the book, you may describe somebody and you may describe them as being overweight. And if you don't associate them in your head with somebody that you know that's overweight, halfway, midway through the book, you may be talking about that individual and you may slip up and say something that would allude to them being thin or skinny. And you may not remember that you just called them overweight in the beginning, but the reader will, because the picture is being painted for them as they go. So if you associate that character with the physical description of somebody that you know, later on in the book, you can keep to that same exact narrative. So just to recap, when you're dealing with character development is saying things about the character that explains their personality. Why do they do the things that they do? So whatever personality that person has, you think of somebody that you know in real life that has that personality, or several people, and you think about what made them that way, and you pick and pull from those scenarios and you place it into the life of your character to explain why that person is how they are. And you want to do the same thing with physical descriptions. When you have a new character introduced into your book and you generally know how you want them to look, you think about somebody that you know. It could even be somebody famous, somebody that you know that looks like that, and you associate that person's physical description with that person that you know in real life, and it'll be easier for you to keep that personality personality stable and keep it the same throughout the book. Keep their description the same throughout the book. And even if you have 20 different characters interacting with one another, you're less likely to get confused because you have it associated with real world things that you can easily recall because it's part of your memory. Okay. And you always want to keep some basic notes, right? Whenever you're writing, you may want to write down somebody's name and, you know, the age, write down their age and general description. Right? General description about them and just keep it to the side. So if you're talking about them later, you're talking about Matthew, you may, oh, wait a minute. Did I say Matthew was 5'7" or did I say Matthew was 5'10"? And you glance at your notes or you think about that person. How would Matthew act? Did I say Matthew was quick tempered or did I say Matthew was cool, calm, and collected? And so when you have a situation and Matthew has to react, you don't want to make Matthew react in a contradictory way to how you already described him. Thanks for watching. Character development is very important. Thanks for watching. Matthew Daniels and Pooh, the real bookworm. I'm not a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. Go check out my website, www.TheRealBookWorm.com. All one word, www.TheRealBookWorm.com. When you go, make sure you register, sign up, become a member so we can talk back and forth. Go to the contact section, leave me an email, send me a message, talk to me. I like to interact with you guys. Let me know what you think about the videos. Let me know if this is helping you as you develop your own books and write your own books and create your own stories. Okay. Check out some of the products that we have. You know, you can go in there, you can purchase my books. I have links to where you can buy some of my books, but make sure you go to that website, www.TheRealBookWorm.com. I want to see you there. Hotel. And as always, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die.